The Old Testament contains a law requiring a man to marry his dead brother's widow. Another forbids boiling a young goat in its mother's milk. And one law is so bizarre that it involves grabbing a man's private parts during a fight. Most people hear these laws and assume they prove the Bible is outdated, primitive, or just plain strange. But here's the question. What if these laws weren't random at all? What if every one of them was solving a problem so important that ancient Israel couldn't survive without it? To find out, we have to begin with perhaps the strangest law of all, the law of the goat that carried away an entire nation's sins. Law number 1, the goat that carried away sin. Leviticus 16:21-22. And Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel and all their transgressions in all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness. And the goat shall bear upon him all their iniquities unto a land not inhabited. Imagine standing among thousands of Israelites on the Day of Atonement. The entire nation has gathered. The high priest emerges before the people. 2 goats stand before him. One will be sacrificed, the other will be sent away alive. Then something extraordinary happens. The priest places both hands upon the living goat and symbolically confesses the sins of the nation over it. Moments later, the animal begins its journey into the wilderness. At first glance, this sounds bizarre. Did the Israelites actually believe a goat could magically absorb sin? Not at all. To understand this law, we must understand the ancient world. Most Israelites could not read. There were no printed Bibles, no theological books, no Bible colleges. Truth was often taught through visual symbols. The Hebrew term associated with this ritual is azazel. For centuries, scholars have debated its exact meaning. Some believe it refers to a remote wilderness location. Others believe it refers to a wilderness figure. But the symbolism remains the same. The wilderness represented separation from God's covenant community. As the goat disappeared beyond the horizon, Israel witnessed a visual lesson. Their sins were being removed from their midst. This was not magic. It was theology made visible. The same idea appears later in Psalm 103, verse 12. As far as the east is from the west, so far hath he removed our transgressions from us. What appears strange at first was actually a powerful lesson about forgiveness. Law number 2, do not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Exodus 23:19. Thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk. This command appears again in Exodus 34:26 and Deuteronomy 14:21. When Scripture repeats something 3 times, it deserves attention. At first glance, this sounds oddly specific. Why would God care how someone cooks a goat? The answer lies in Israel's neighbors. Ancient Israel was surrounded by Canaanite cultures whose religious practices often blended fertility rituals with agriculture. Many scholars believe this command may have been aimed at preventing Israel from adopting pagan ceremonial practices. Whether or not we can reconstruct the exact ritual, the biblical pattern is unmistakable. Again and again, God tells Israel, "Do not imitate the nations around you." The symbolism is also striking. Milk is meant to nourish life. A mother's milk sustains her offspring. Using that same milk as part of the process that leads to the death of the young animal reverses the natural order. The command became another reminder that Israel was called to think differently from surrounding cultures. Law number 3, let the mother bird go. Deuteronomy 22:6-7. If a bird's nest chance to be before thee, in the way in any tree or on the ground, whether they be young ones or eggs, and the dam sitting upon the young or upon the eggs, thou shalt not take the dam with the young, But thou shalt in any wise let the dam go, and take the young to thee, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest prolong thy days. Imagine finding a bird's nest while gathering food. The law permits you to take the eggs. But then comes the strange restriction. You must release the mother bird. Why? Because God was teaching Israel a principle bigger than birds. Take the eggs and you have food today. Take the mother as well, and you destroy tomorrow's supply. The Hebrew word for mother emphasizes the source of future life. This law taught restraint. It taught stewardship. It taught people not to consume everything simply because they could. Long before conservation became a modern concept, Israel was being taught responsibility toward future generations. Law number 4. Do not wear mixed fabrics. Deuteronomy 22:11. Thou shalt not wear a garment of divers sorts, as of woolen and linen together. Few Old Testament laws are mocked more frequently than this one. People often ask, why would God care about fabric? The key lies in a rare Hebrew term called shatnez. This specifically referred to mixing wool and linen together, but the larger context reveals something deeper. Throughout the law, God repeatedly teaches Israel about separation, different seeds, different animals, different fabrics, different roles, different responsibilities. Holiness meant being set apart. The clothing itself became a daily reminder of Israel's covenant identity. Every morning when an Israelite dressed, they were reminded that they belonged to God. What appears to modern readers as a strange textile regulation served as a living symbol of holiness. Law number 5. Build a railing around your roof. Deuteronomy 22:8. When you build a new house, make a parapet around your roof so that you may not bring the guilt of bloodshed on your house if someone falls from the roof. Ancient homes often had flat roofs. Families worked there, socialized there, dried crops there, sometimes even slept there during warm nights. The roof functioned almost like another room. Now imagine guests gathering on that roof. One misstep, one accident, one fatal fall. God commands the homeowner to build a protective barrier around the edge. The lesson is remarkable. You are responsible for foreseeable danger. The law doesn't wait until somebody gets hurt. It requires prevention. Thousands of years before modern building codes existed, Israel was being taught that protecting life was a moral responsibility. Law number 6. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together. Deuteronomy 22:10. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey yoked together. An ox is larger, stronger, more powerful. A donkey is smaller and weaker. Yoke them together and one animal inevitably suffers. Their strength is unequal. Their stride is unequal. Their burden becomes unequal. Ancient farmers immediately understood the problem. What appears to modern readers as a strange farming regulation was actually an act of compassion. God was teaching Israel not to create situations where the weak suffer under the demands of the strong. Law number 7. Marry your brother's widow. Deuteronomy 25:5. If brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, his widow must not marry outside the family. Her husband's brother shall take her and marry her and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to her. To modern ears, this sounds shocking. But ancient listeners heard something entirely different. A widow in the ancient world often faced economic disaster. There were no government programs, no pension systems, no social safety nets. If a husband died childless, his family line could disappear, his inheritance could vanish, his widow could be left vulnerable. The Hebrew institution became known as levirate marriage. Its purpose was preservation. Preservation of the widow, preservation of inheritance, preservation of the deceased man's name. The law wasn't primarily about romance, it was about survival. Suddenly, what sounds strange begins to look compassionate. But now we come to perhaps the most controversial law on this list, a law involving a fight, a desperate wife, and one of the most debated punishments in Scripture. Law number 8. Do not seize a man's private parts during a fight. Deuteronomy 25:11-12. If two men are fighting, and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, you shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity. Why would such a specific situation even appear in the Bible? To understand it, we must remember the importance of descendants in ancient Israel. Land passed through family lines, inheritance passed through family lines. The future of a household depended upon future generations. The concern was not merely touching someone, the concern was causing permanent reproductive injury. Such an injury could threaten a man's ability to produce heirs, and that threatened everything connected to inheritance and family survival. Modern readers focus on the unusual scenario. Ancient readers focused on the potentially devastating consequences. The law may still feel uncomfortable. But within its original context, it was protecting something ancient Israelites considered essential to survival, alike